All right, guys. Well, we are going to be hopping on into the webinar today. I see a bunch of you guys piling on in here, which is super exciting. Holy cow. Something like 1,100 folks registered for today's webinar and for the rest of the webinar for the week. Very excited to have you guys with us. We're going to hop right on into it here today. We're excited to kick off this week all about building a great team that wins spring. And so really quickly, if you guys don't know, my name is Brian Fullerton. I run a lawn and landscaping company up here in Metro Detroit, Michigan. We've actually been doing this for 19 plus years, going into our 20th season, believe it or not. And we are super excited about hosting this webinar today with Elman Granum. And I can't thank you guys enough for the opportunity to MC and host this event with all of you that are participating. Maybe some of you guys are watching live. Maybe some of you guys are watching the replay, but nonetheless, we love having you guys on here to learn about what it's going to take to grow a great business into the spring rush. Before we jump on into it, big crowd participation type. I'll be asking a bunch of questions along the way. We'll keep it fun. We're just coming off of lunch, so I'm sure the Chipotle burritos are moving down south. Let's shake it up so we're not just falling asleep on something like this. Let's do a little roll call. If you guys don't mind, type in the chat where you guys are plugging in from and how many of you guys are on the webinar. Actually, a really fun, exciting update. I've heard that a lot of you guys are showing this to your team this week. Not a lot of snow, maybe not cutting grass just yet. So you guys got some team huddles together, and some of you guys have 4 or 5 guys, showing this in your conference rooms, in your lobby, in your warehouse, which is really exciting. So a lot of folks, holy cow. All right. Well, if we can keep that kind of activity up all week, folks, I think we'll all be ready for the spring rush. Because
Real talk, man. Look at
thing
that.
looks like
That's
a stock
awesome.
ticker. Yeah, it's like opening bell for the stock market. All right, let's do this really quick. We have a lot to get through this week. We're really, really excited about equipping you guys to have the best spring ever. I know a lot of you guys are coming off of the best winter in any recent memory. Very long, very stressful, very tiring for a lot of us, but a lot of pocketbooks are filled. I know folks are shopping for equipment. And guys, we're going to be helping you take all that time, all that money, all that training, and put it to work into your business to grow and have your best spring ever. Before we jump into it, I'm going to have the guest host, Sam Gembel, and one of our guests, panelists today, Denver, introduce themselves here in a quick minute. But if you guys can do me a big, solid favor, just put in the comments in the chat if you guys don't mind. Thank you to Elman Granum for hosting this. We can't thank you guys enough for participating. We can't thank them enough for putting their time, their money, their resources in to making this webinar available to all of us. None of this is free. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. I know you guys know that. So thank you to Element and the rest of their team. There's like a dozen of them watching, over our shoulder to make sure we don't mess
We just
this
get
thing up.
we just get to do the fun part, right? Like they
Exactly.
actually put together the legwork to get everybody on here, and we just
They
get to
do.
share the post and do the fun part. So
They
no doubt about it, man, for
They
sure.
really they really do. So we're very spoiled in that regard, and we can't thank them enough. All right, let's do this real quick. I'm going to do my best after a little bit of housekeeping here. Let our panelists take it away. So I can do a quick little introduction for them, but they probably know their story just a little bit better than myself. But I will just say both of these guys, they have a heart of a teacher. They love helping people, and they're here to serve you guys today. So let's do this really quick. We've got our kickoff, panelist and co-host, Mr. Sam Gembel. So Sam, welcome to the Jungle Brother. How you doing this afternoon?
Dude, it's always a privilege and honor to I got a million wins to share, but I know we don't have time for that. But for one, to get to co-host with you, Brian. So this is going to be an epic week. The guests that are going to be on, including today's guest, is going to be phenomenal. But obviously to get to partner with LMN to do something with this type of event, because I do think that LMN is changing the industry for the better for our industry. But most importantly, to get to share on a topic that is so near and dear to my heart, as you mentioned, it's the time to be buying equipment. Hey, a lot of people have had a record winter. Well, I will say this: none of that stuff matters if you don't have the culture and the team to use it with. So, what better? When we got asked to host this event together, I'm like, dude, I'm in. I mean, this is something that I live, eat, breathe, and sleep on. So excited to see where this goes. So yeah, just a quick intro on myself for those of you that don't know. I am Sam Gembel. I am the founder of Atlas Outdoor, just a small lawn and landscape company located in Southeast Michigan. We got a branch in Flint, also a branch in Novi. Between the two locations, we have around 110 team members. And I am a firm believer that the secret sauce to our success, even through some of the darker years of growth, was our culture. And it was the focus that we put on our people. So super excited to share today. And I will actually introduce quickly Denver, who it was totally not even because I happen to have the privilege and honor of knowing Denver and have gotten to be his business coach here for the last, I don't know, 3 years or so. But that was totally just something that Denver has been building. And LMN actually said, "Hey, what do you think of this Denver guy?" I'm like, "What do I think? I know him probably, we joke and say better than you know yourself, but I probably know Denver a little better than Denver knows himself because we've prayed together, we've talked together, we've cried together, I'm excited for everybody here because just because I know the statistics of the industry, I know where Denver is at with his business, and in my personal and professional opinion, many people that are going to be attending this webinar all week, like Denver he's the real deal. Like he's building it. He had the vision for it. He dreamt it, and now he's building it. So I'm excited for everybody to get to hear some of the things that he's doing. So that's all I'll say about Denver. I'll let him kind of introduce himself from there, but I am excited for not just today, but for this whole week. So Denver, give it to him raw and real, man.
Hey guys, Denver, out of Salem, Ohio. Like Sam said, I own a lawn and landscape company. Kind of full circle here. Brian is actually the one that introduced Sam and I via YouTube. He didn't even know it. So the only reason I found out about Sam is Brian's shop tour. And he mentioned that, he did some coaching and I cold emailed him, and that's a whole story in itself. But that's how we got to know each other. So I thought it was kind of cool that all three of us were on the Zoom together.
That is
But
cool.
yeah, small landscaping company in Salem, Ohio. We have 25 employees. I started 10 years ago on the side by myself with a little Cub Cadet lawn tractor, and several mowing crews. We do hardscaping, landscaping, and fertilization. So full grounds maintenance. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm very, very excited to have both of you guys on today, and of course, guys, let's keep the conversation fun. Let's keep it active. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping, just so you guys know. This is actually day one. I know last summer we did a snow and tell, which was 5 days. So that's where some of you guys might have been concerned that you didn't see the Monday show. There is no Monday show on this webinar. It's Tuesday through Friday. So great question, great question. Our topic that was in the chat. You will get all of the recordings here, just so you guys know. If you log in, you will get all the replays. So maybe you guys are doing some plowing or some touch-up snow, or maybe you guys are having a spring kickoff. No emergencies. We'll get you guys all the recording in a very short amount of time. And another quick thing here, the chat, if you have any great questions, throw it in the Q&A chat box, which is different than the main chat box. So maybe you guys have been on Zooms before, maybe you haven't. I know before COVID, I never was on, Zoom. I was in the field. I was cutting grass and doing snow. We've all kind of, flexed up a little bit with technology the last couple of years as our, landscape has changed. But the chat, if you have generic questions, you can always throw them in there. But if you have questions for Sam or Denver, throw them in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer them real time. If they're a heavier question, we'll, of course, maybe save that and bring it up at the end. We're going to have a lot of extra time, part of these webinars this week, which I'm really excited about. Before, in our last series that we did with snow, which Sam was able to participate on, it was just an hour long. And we really tried to wedge those questions at the end, but I know you guys have a lot of great questions you want to ask. So we're extending it for an extra 20 or 30 minutes at the end of each webinar this week, which is really exciting. So if you got a good question, make sure you queue it up towards the end and put it in the Q&A chat box, and I'll make sure to queue that up to Sam and Denver. Let's just really quick. I'm really excited about today, but let's talk about the rest of the agenda for the week. Not only do we have Sam and Denver joining us today about building crews that actually stay, folks, I can't tell you honestly like how excited and humble I am to host the lineup for the rest of the week as well. We've got some heavy hitters that are in the green industry and in the snow business. Kevin Scott, a lot of you guys know Kevin. He's the president and CEO of Muskoka Landscapers in Canada. He's got a bunch of other great endeavors and businesses. Just an incredible business owner. He's going to be on tomorrow with Sam Gembel as well as we co-host this thing. Day three, You guys know him. You guys love him. He's Jason Cromley. He'll be joining us probably from Columbus, Ohio. Maybe sitting on a phone book to make it into the Zoom. I know these cameras these days pan up and down, but that's an inside joke
That's
for
great.
that's funny right there. That'll get back to him. So much for my career seeing Jason. But he's got a 25 plus $1 million company, Hidden Creek. I always say he sits tall because he can sit on his wallet. So he'll be joining us for day 3 and talking about building a high performance culture. And they got big things going on down there. If you guys didn't see one of our shop tours from there, incredible organization. And then day 4, rounding it out, Sam and I, they're letting the inmates be in charge of the prison. We're going to be talking about how to run a profitable spring meeting, how to have a great spring kickoff. And we are right around the corner here in Michigan for that whole conversation. And Sam is going to, we're going to release him on you guys for a whole hour straight, just him solo, giving you guys the sauce. So that being said, I am your host. I'm going to be kind of poking in and out of this thing over the next 45 minutes. Folks, I humbly say this. We're really, really thankful and excited to have you on today. We can't thank the LMN team as well. And we know all of you guys are pregnant with growth, and we're really excited about having the best spring ever. So that being said, I'm going to kick it over to Sam in Denver, and we're going to let them take it away. But guys, let's strap in and let's jump on into it. Sam, I'll give it to you, brother.
Yeah, so obviously it's that part of the year where I'm hoping that the bulk of you on this call are preparing for what your springtime is going to look like. So whether that's equipment, whether that's routes, whether that's sales, whether that's hiring and recruiting, or whether that's yes to all of the above, which I'm hoping that that's what it is. But all too often, so many people they don't think about the people side until the very last thing, where companies that are building a great culture, that are building an award-winning team right now, their focus is on the people. And I'm a firm believer that if you can build the people, that the rest of the work will come. But all too often, people think they put that last. I've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times. And so, and a lot of times as looking at, the agenda, which by the way, is this agenda on everybody's screen right now? I just want to make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Okay. So obviously we've been through, we know what the focus is for today, but I just want to kick off by going right into the welcoming side there. So if we talk about, yeah, thank you for moving the slide there. So if as we talk about, what the spring problem is, it's people are worried right now that are my contracts going to renew? Am I going to have enough sales? And it's not like nobody thinks about, hey, I need good foremen, I need good labor, good crew members, good apprentices. They don't think about that till the very end. Well, the issue with that is as we get to let's call it a month from right now, we go right into the turnover is predictable with panic hiring. And I don't know if you guys have ever attended a party before that has hors d'oeuvres or, food that's served. But if you show up to the party late, guess what? You're going to end up with the celery sticks and the hardened cheese and all that's kind of left over. The good chicken wings and the good little prosciutto bites, things like that. That stuff's already gone by the people that actually got there early. So what happens is we end up, because we wait till the 11th hour, we assume that we're going to have maybe the same amount of work that we had the year before, but we end up getting into panic hiring. And nothing is good when we do it in a panic. Picture your hiring process as if you were on an airplane and all of a sudden the airplane started to deal with some crazy turbulence and the captain got on the microphone. And what does he do now? This is what you all should be accustomed to, but the captain will get on and he'll say, hey, you guys, we've got a little bit of unexpected turbulence, but we're going to go ahead and adjust the altitude a little bit and we'll get this bird flying smooth. But can you imagine if that captain got on the microphone and said, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? This could be the one. We're going to lose everybody. Well, for one, we'd all probably have a heart attack. And for two, they don't do that. So the turnover is predictable. We should expect that at any given point in time, our team is going to leave us. We would like to think that they're going to stay, but really the reality of the matter is for some companies, depending on what size you are, you can probably plan that you're going to have some turnover. The goal is to try to mitigate that as much as possible. One of the ways to mitigate that is by having an onboarding structure. So as we kind of get into some Q&A things, and if you guys got questions that you guys want to jump in here and talk about, obviously make sure you guys are planning them, because we've got a lot to cover in the next hour here. And then 3 is no training. At my particular company, I love to do surveys, and when we have sent surveys out to our team, like, hey, what can we do as an organization to try to make the company better? We would think it'd be like, oh, more pay, or better benefits. And yes, those are all important things, and people do mention them. But crazy to think, guess what? More often than not, guess what people say that they want more of? I'll pause for 1 second. Denver, what is it? They want more training.
Yeah.
People want a training program. So that's the issue, is when we panic hire, let's put these all together. We panic hire because we wait till the 11th hour to get the people on. So then at that point, there's really no structure. It's, hey, you got a pulse. Let's get you in the door. You applied. You want to be here. And then 3, we release these people into our business to run $150,000 rigs and pieces of equipment, and without any proper training or backing. And then we wonder why our trucks get wrecked, why things happen, because there's really no training that goes on the back end. So on that note, Denver, why don't we kind of talk, since you're our guest today, why don't you just give a quick little 2-minute version here of what you are doing, what you've experienced on this end, but then also on the other side, what is Legacy doing right now, given you guys are, really only about 3 weeks away from your peak season kicking off? What are you guys doing to mitigate this right here that you could share with our guest?
Yeah, I can definitely empathize with that. We have been guilty in the past of, oh, you have a pulse. Can you start tomorrow? And, throw you in the truck, and, that only solves a temporary problem that usually creates a lot more problems. So yeah, definitely training. So first, before training though, we have developed a pre-screening process. We've actually worked with a company, Hire Bus. A little shameless plug for them, but they do a simple pre-screening process for us. They work with Indeed ads, and they kind of screen some of the applicants that aren't gonna work anyhow, that are gonna flake anyhow, and saves a lot of your time. They also do a personality test along with that, which helps in placement. A lot of times, I mean, I've many times we've hired the right person and put them in the wrong seat, and that's a big issue too. They're good people, have a lot of good skill sets, and then you put them in the wrong seat, and then they struggle, and there's conflict. Once we go through the hiring process, then we've really built out a solid compensation and path of growth. So a lot of in the past, and I know Sam and I have talked about this, someone comes in, they're like, oh man, I'm on hard times, I need a raise. And you feel empathetic. And we want to take care of our guys. We want them to thrive and not just pay the bills. But there has to be a process to that. And there has to be a systematic way of, how do I achieve this, and then I can, level up to the next pay cycle. So we built out a path of growth for our guys, from entry level technician or apprentice to a technician to a crew lead to a tenured crew lead. And that way we're very transparent with both the new applicants and our current staff. And we're like, hey, here's the path to success. And that's a big deal as well. As far as training goes, we've also implemented a designated trainer. A lot of our crew leads have, we'll talk about this more too, but with LMN, they know exactly how many man hours their property's supposed to take. They know what they need to do for the day, and they are guns a-blazing. They want to get this done. They've got a bonus on the horizon or whatnot. They want to make their pay. And the last thing they want to do is teach a new guy how to weed whack. You know what I mean? So we will actually put a trainer with that guy, spend some extra time with him, and build that person out before they're kind of thrown into the thick of it. And that's made a huge difference in our turnover and how long people stay at Legacy.
I'll give a
That's
quick little
awesome.
story there before we get into our audience poll, but I'm going to go back probably about 10 years ago. And so we're about 5 years in business at this point. And I remembered like we had convinced ourselves that this was just a high turnover industry. And I can tell you, because I've seen it countless times in companies, my own personal, but also in hundreds of companies that I've had the privilege of talking to over my years. But I had convinced myself, our company had convinced ourselves that this is just a high turnover industry. And when we had moved about 30 minutes south of our main office. So I thought I had earned the right to not have to go to the office every morning as an owner. You know, my people can handle business without me being there, and blah blah blah. And that's a whole nother webinar series we'll do someday. But I had went to the office one morning because I had some stuff to do, and I noticed there was two new people standing right by the door. I could tell they were new hires, and they just kind of looked like a deer in headlights. And at about this point in business, we had about 35 employees at that point. And I walked in, typical Sam culture. Hey, what's up, guys? Morning, fist bump. I'm Sam, and I walk in and I go sit at my desk, and I could kind of see out of the corner of my eye like nobody's talking to these guys. They're just kind of standing there. And about 15 to 20 minutes had went by, and nobody's talking to them. So I went outside and I said, "Hey, can I help you guys with something?" And they said, "Yeah, we're starting today." I'm like, I kind of could sense that you were, new hires. And I was like, "Well, who hired you?" And they said, "Oh, it was a lady. Didn't have any names." So I'm like, "Well, it's either our office manager or our HR manager, and who doubles as my wife." And so I'm like, "All right, well, what did they tell you?" "Well, they just said to be here, at 7:30 and bring my documents for hiring." "What else did they say? Who you were supposed to talk to?" "Nope, they said that there'll be a manager that'll meet with us." And clearly, I could tell that the system was broken at this point. So I decided to dive a little bit deeper, and I later learned that we had crew leaders that had like a 30-day policy. And what I mean by the 30-day policy, and some of you guys will relate to this, they would not put somebody's phone number in their phone until they had survived 30 days, because there was a really, really good chance that they weren't gonna survive. But here we are thinking that we've got, a retention problem. We were really, really good at getting people in the door, but our assumption was that we're a high turnover industry. And that, unfortunately, that, conception of our industry, or I should say misconception, has kind of infiltrated its way throughout the entire country, or continent, honestly, all throughout North America. But it doesn't have to be that way. You guys heard what Denver said. There's like, it starts at the interview process and understanding the expectations, but then it goes right into training. And when we started implementing a training program for when all the new hires had to go through a proficiency to say, "Hey, here's how you're going to get from here to here," it was a complete game changer. And you don't have to overthink it. Like, our process really got much more robust over the last couple years. But prior to that, it was really just somebody to take the flipping time of day to make sure you were comfortable before you got sent out to even just run a weed whacker. Just make sure you were comfortable with it. So, Denver, well said. I know your process very well, but go ahead, Brian. I'll let you kind of take it over right here to
No,
give us a little bit of an audience poll.
this is great. We've got a poll. We lost feedback that we got from the snow webinar that we did last year summer. You guys love polls. Well, I love polls. Even if you don't have a great answer or maybe a big team just yet, that's okay. Think about, like, if you are even solo and you want to bring somebody on, where are you at in this process? We're going to get into more X's and O's and how, twos over the next half dozen slides. So
Yep.
if you guys are like, I know I need to do this, or maybe my process isn't as refined as Denver's, like, that's okay. Trust me. And no shame, no same. One of the church I plugs into, that's what they say. No shame, no same. Come on in here, learn where we're at. Let's build some new stuff together. And by the end of the week, we'll get you the tools and the resources to put a great hiring process in. And by the way, some of these issues, they're not going to just be solved overnight, right? This might take, your next big 90-day project is to get with you and two or three people, part of your team or the owner or whatnot, or your, right-hand guy or gal. And hey, let's build a new process over the next 90 days. So again, just recognize some patterns here, and you'll be able to put this into action in your business. And again, maybe the same time next year, spring, you come here and you say, "Hey, last year I worked on hiring and training. This year I get to work on something else." So again, no shame, no same. I know I'm literally going through this process myself. Shameless plug for Greenius. We're building out our videos as we speak, our SOPs as we speak. Like, I'm really, really hammering that because as Sam says on a lot of his content, it's people in sales, sales and people. And I've kind of found that sales is a little less challenging than maybe finding and working with people. So give me an amen in the comments if you can relate to that one. Holy cow.
Look at our feedback right here. Okay. So
Yep,
yeah, those of you look at
there it is.
one third. We don't have a defined process. You are not
Hmm.
alone. Whoever, all of you that chose that, you are not
Hmm.
alone. That is much more common than most of you realize. So way to be vulnerable, and hopefully as we learn what the needs are and the wants are of this community, that's the next webinar. So yeah, I love that. Way to be transparent there. Well, let's move on here just for the sake of time. The turnover starts earlier than you think. And this is exactly, by the way, I did not know what slide was coming up next. And ironically, what exactly was I just talking about right there? The confusing first day. There's actually all kinds of statistics that you guys can find if you go on the internet. SHRM, the Society of Human Resources, actually has put out polls on this, like, or you could just go on and ask chat, what what percentage of employees quit within a set number of days. And it's been said like most new team members don't make it through the full first week. And we would like to say with our prideful selves that the reason that that happens is because it's just a high turnover industry. But really, if somebody does make it, if you're one of the people of those 60 some people that are a third of the people that said you don't really have a defined process, let me ask you a question that I really want you to think about. Do you think that the people that make it through past that point are just that great, that they're that much better than the ones that didn't make it? Or do you really think, and I'm just going to be blunt here for a sec, that maybe those people think so lowly of themselves that they're just like, I just want a job. I just want, and then you wonder why you end up with the company full of C players. But if you could have a process like Denver alluded to eliminate my coach and mentor has been telling me, he says, Sam, we've got A's, B's, C's, and F's. There is no D and E. So if they're a C, that means that we have convinced ourselves we can make them into at least a B player. But after a C, they're out. So if all you're getting to stay on your team are the people that are willing to put up with crap, what does that really say about the person? So let's talk about right here. Most people quit before they actually quit. Why is that? The confusing first day. You heard what I talked about, that story when we came to work, when I went to the office that day, and these people, these new hires who could have been great, had no idea who they were supposed to work with, what department they were working in, who their boss was going to be, really what their job description was going to be. So we might as well have taken no training plan or no future picture right off of that program. We don't even have the first day down or the clear roll down. I can tell you guys, you will increase your retention by 50% by those top two. Take a screenshot of that. If you could just get the first day down and get the clear job description down, you will increase your retention. Actually, I'll up my ante. You'll increase your retention by 75% just with those two things. So it's not rocket science. You can start that tomorrow. You can do that tomorrow. But Denver, why don't we talk about Legacy there? Let's talk about the first day at Legacy. What does it look like when a new laborer or apprentice gets hired? Let's just say for a lawn crew, for the sake of time here, new guys getting hired for a lawn crew. What's the first day look like for them?
Yeah, absolutely. When they first come in, they finish all of their proper documentation. We have a clearly hammered out SOP on that. So filling out their employee handbook, they've already turned in an application, but we get some copies of their legal paperwork and we get them there. So we have a training vest. So all of our new hires get a vest with the logo on it and everything. So everybody knows they worked for Legacy. And then once you're vested for the 30 days, then you'll actually get your uniforms, is how we do it. So they'll get their vest, they'll get assigned with their crew and their trainer, and then they'll go over the basics of the equipment and start working from there. But it's very, they show up and they know what they're supposed to do. There's someone there to guide them along the way. We're not just like, here, go to get in that truck and go to work, which full disclosure, that used to be how it was. So,
Yeah. I think everybody on this
uh,
call are either just coming out of that season, they're in that season, or they're about to enter that season. They
Yeah.
just don't realize it
yep.
yet. It's one of the three there. So what has that done for you? What have you noticed the difference in? I obviously I know the culture of your business, so I don't want to be the one to have to explain it, but what
Mhm.
have you noticed the difference by just having that first day process down of what it looks like, the clear role of this is what I'm coming to work
Mhm.
to do, but then obviously the training plan, like I like the training plan in the future picture. I just want us to focus on those top two things
Mhm.
for right now. But what has that done for the culture and for the retention at Legacy?
Well, like you said, people just want to know what they're there to do, and they want to have a plan. And when they show up and they don't feel like you know what's going on, that's very, a lot of these people, this is their sole livelihood, and that's very disconcerting if you show up to a job and there's no organization, and you're like, am I even going to get paid or all
Yep.
this kind of stuff. So, part of that's just part of that what that's done is that's just giving our guys security, you know what I mean, um as well as giving our guys say the question again, sorry, I
Yeah,
lost my
no,
train
like
of thought.
what have you noticed? How have you noticed the difference in what that's done at Legacy for you? Just having those
Yes,
processes in place.
yes,
Like
something else that
what
came to
difference
mind.
have you noticed?
Yeah, something else that came to mind is we set back when we started developing some of these systems, and we looked over some of the guys that we had lost. And like,
Mm,
not with regret, but like, how can we do better? What can we learn from this? And there were several guys where we were like, you know what? I don't think it was them. I think it was us. I think we didn't give them the path to success, and they didn't believe in us. They didn't know what to do. Some of them, yeah, they weren't doing the right thing, but they didn't know any better. We just threw them to the wolves. And so, not to beat keep beating the same drum, but it's definitely helped with turnover.
yeah.
Because guys will come in, and if they don't know what they're doing and they just bounce around from crew to crew, and you throw them with one crew and then you throw them with another crew, and there's no continuity, and they're not learning anything because the guys are too busy trying to get their jobs done. It's they're not, like you said, they're not part of the team, they're not putting them in their contacts. um et cetera. So that's really helped with our turnover, and it's just helped overall with their pride of life. Like
You
they're
you
we
you
don't
nailed
call
it.
them laborers anymore. We call them technicians, and they're
Technicians
they're
or
trained
apprentices.
technicians.
You nailed something there when you said, you've looked back at the path and said, man, like at the end of the day, it really wasn't them, it was us. I will tell you, it's always us as the leaders. When things are going bad, we can usually look right at the person in the mirror and say, I'm the one that created that. And if things are going really well at the top, you'll typically see a well organized organization that's well led. And so I will say, and we'll end it with this before we move on to the next slide, is a lot of the people that are coming into our organizations, I hate to say this, but it's a true fact. Um, a lot of them have it's pretty common they have some pretty messed up home lives. I mean, especially
Hmm.
if you know what the pandemic did to break up households, and obviously inflation has been so hard for people to be able to, the cost of living is crazy now, right? And most people's home lives are they're they're I don't want to use the word they're in shambles, but they're just not great, right? They're just not great. And the last thing that these incredible human beings need is to come to work and it's just as bad as it is with their home life. Like if people can come to work, a lot of people, it's if people can just come into our organizations and just feel the sense of belonging, or even simpler than that, just feeling settled. You nailed it earlier,
Hmm.
Denver, when they can come in and go, I know that I'm going to have a paycheck on Friday. I know the equipment that I'm going to be able to operate is going to be safe and it's going to be reliable. I know I'm going to be able to do my job with excellence because of the tools my boss has provided me with. If you could just get those simple things down, people don't want to come in. I'll go back to my pilot comment earlier with, people's if the chaos is at work the same way as it is at home, people are going to find a more settled home to belong
Yep.
to. So well
Well.
said, Denver. Well, I want to move on from that. I want to talk about the real cost of bad hiring. So you heard what we, had said earlier when we were talking about, the expense of, I don't know where I lost my train of thought because I had the other slide on my screen, but the real cost, when we wait till the 11th hour and we panic hire, and then the people that we get on our team that we put out there into the real world, we wonder why, we've got a whole organization full of C players. We can't get people to hit the production rates that we're looking for, to do the quality work that we're relying on. So what ends up happening is, one, the cost of turnover here, lost productivity, the time to retrain, the frustration of your crew not putting somebody's contact in their phone for 30 days. And then at the end of it, what do we deal with? You've got an owner that's burning out, because this is what I would refer to as the treadmill of business, where it's the same stuff every single day. And you're wondering just why it's not getting any better. I just did a podcast. Actually, Denver had mentioned earlier, I saw one question that popped up, had asked about what the program was that was utilized for the orientations or the pre-quality. It's a program called Hire Bus. The founder of that was actually a guest on my podcast, and he talked about that, the cost of losing, an A player, and you think that the cost of only taking C players is a lot. Well, imagine what happens when you're trying to build A players, but A players see you dealing with the frustration of the C's, or the worse, the F's, the cost of both of them. So if you think that it's expensive to hire the better person right out of the gate, imagine what the cost of turnover is. So what happens is this ends up being a reason why most companies can't scale, because I've seen a lot of y'all's LMN budgets. And when I look at y'all's LMN budgets, it's like, I've got to get $170 a man hour in order for me to be productive. No, you don't. The problem is because you are struggling so bad on the recruiting end and the retention end and the training end, that you have to be that expensive just to make 10% net profit. So imagine if you could get these things dialed in, instead of going, man, well, that other person is a lowballing SOB. Maybe they've just got their hiring and their recruiting, their hiring and their retention process in place to create good culture. But I know firsthand that Denver's got, Denver, you have some great people in your organization. So talk to us, just what does an A player look like, and how do they make your job as an owner easier?
Yeah, good question. I've talked to my A players several times about this, and I what I value most is for someone, and I'll explain what I mean by this, but for someone to make me feel safe. And what I mean by that is when I delegate a task to you, I want to support you in that, but make me feel like you're taking ownership of that. I've got this, boss. Leave me alone. I got this. You know what I mean? And not, I'm looking for people that are wanting to take a project on themselves. I just had perfect example. We just had Mark, our operations manager for lawn maintenance. He needed some flyers for something, and it was below. We have purchasing procedures and things, and he just went and purchased the flyers we needed. Didn't ask me, didn't bother me. And they showed up one day. I'm like, oh, what's this? He's like, oh, these flyers. I'm like, perfect, ready to go. Like, if you're coming to me with all these little tasks, then you're not an A player. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. That's just an example of somebody from a leadership perspective. But obviously, when you look into an A player that's on the, like, why, if I was to ask you, like, why should an A player want to continue being a part of the legacy team? What are you doing different to keep the better hires and hopefully reduce the cost of the bad hires? Like, what are you doing different on that front? Not just from an operations manager
Yeah.
standpoint, but what about from a crew member standpoint or a crew
From
leader
a
standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of that is the path to success that I alluded to earlier. A clear path. I know if I stick with this company, year one, this is what I'm going to make, and this is what I'm not just what I'm going to make, but what I'm going to be responsible and what I'm going to learn. And this is what I'm expect of. If I want leadership, this is what this looks like. This is what I'm going to be responsible for. This is who I'm going to report to. This is what I'm going to learn. This is what I'm going to make. Um, and also providing ongoing training. We're also something we're starting this year is some efficiency training for some of our A players, and more of a not a talk down to, but hey guys, let's have a tailgate talk here. How can we improve our efficiency? Give me feedback. I want to build a culture of us, not me. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
how can we iron sharpen iron? How can we make this better? Here's the goal. Now talk to me. How can we get to the goal? And
Yep.
then and involve them in the solution, and not just have them as a I don't know what the words I'm thinking is, like, not just use them as minions. You know what I mean? But use them as
Yeah.
team players and involve them in getting to the goal. But
Hey,
mission minded.
one of the things I've learned as we move on here to what great people want, it kind of flows right into it, is that winners, A players want to be around more A players. And if A players see you tolerating the behaviors of a B minus or a C and you're not working to improve them, they will leave your organization. And you want to talk about owner burnout. I remember talking to somebody at one of the Entrepreneur Academy events, and at that point I think we had around 75 team members, and that person was like, 75 team members, man, screw that, dude. Stay small, keep it all. And I remember thinking to myself, like, my job as I've grown the company has actually gotten kind of easier because everybody is, rowing in the right direction. And it's a lot easier to move the ship when you got more people that are creating that horsepower and that leverage. But let's move on to
Well, hey,
what go
let
ahead.
me interject really quick. Because I love what you guys are sharing. And there's a lot of nuggets that are being shared here. If I had to summarize so far the first half, right, and for time's sake, we're like 2/3 of the way through, but for time's sake, what I hear, just to call it the obvious from Sam in Denver, is that there's a process, right? And if you don't have it documented and it's in your brain, you still have a process. And, not to be smug, but either you have a effective process or you have an ineffective process. And again, that's totally fine. So we're going to go through the next couple of slides to give you guys some tools on how to create an effective process. But
Mhm.
I'll tell you what, folks, don't feel like if you don't have a good hiring process that you're the only one. All right. Unfortunately, Sam probably has a better stat than I do, but if I had to guess, 80% of folks don't have a very good hiring process. In fact, I heard somebody say once like 93% of all stats are made up on the spot. But anyway, you guys will get that one later. But just to lighten it up a little bit. But I'll just tell you
That's
guys, if
great.
you don't have a great process right now, that's okay. That's okay. Let's just own it and have somebody own it over the next 90 days. All right. 60% of the time works 100% of
That's
the time. That's
great.
right, Dan.
That's
All
great.
right. So I love what these guys are sharing, but don't feel inadequate. Don't feel like you're incompetent or, man, all these people have this all figured out. They
Nope.
don't. A lot of these guys have just put pen to paper. They're thinking it through. They're intentional. Maybe they have a coach that's pulling the, the best out of them. And again, a lot of folks, I saw great conversations earlier going about Greenius. Again, shameless plug. If you don't have great videos or you don't have a training program, use Greenius. Huge opportunity there. And if you love their videos, fantastic. If you want to add and build your own over time, fantastic. But again, I hate to again be the elephant in the room. Either you have a process or it's documented, or you have a process in your head. But you have to realize, if I'm weak in this, how long do I want to accept being weak in this area of my business? Right? Like if I'm in the business of scaling and growing my company and it's going to take people per Sam in Denver, I got two options, right? I can put my head in the sand or own it. And I'll tell you guys, like me personally, as I aspire to grow where these guys are at in business, where a lot of you guys are at in business, I realized I was pretty weak in this area. So I want to master this. And so everything I've been learning is about people and leadership and videos and Greenius and LMN, right? So again, you're going to have a process, good or bad, right or wrong. If you want to grow, you're going to need good people. And so the sooner you just own it, uh, you know, tackle the bull by the horns, whatever we want to call it, the sooner that you'll start being able to have this engine for this cylinder, firing on all 8 cylinders for your engine. All right. So I didn't want to just skip ahead too much because there's a lot going on here. It's like drinking from a fire hose. So take some notes down from what we've already talked about, but get ready for the next little bit because these guys are going to give you some great tools to help you with that process. So Sam, back to you. I just want to throw that in there really quick.
I will jump right off what you said about the processes, Brian. And when we go back to I go back to the years of Atlas when Atlas was growing and scaling at our peak, right around I'd say around 5 million in revenue was where we had. Every company has processes. We'll put it like this. Every company has processes. They're either by intent or they're by default. So they're intentional because you said, hey, I want this to be my process, or they're by default, and that's just the way it's worked. And I will say that if you've got good tools to recruit and you've got good tools to get the work done and sell, your default processes can take you to build a $4 or $5 million company, believe it or not. But at a certain point, they will break, and your processes have to be intentional. The reason we are on this webinar today is we want you to have more intentional processes. That's the whole point.
Right.
It's because you want to have a plan for it in advance. And so I like to tell people that when we were going through some of those dark years of business, our only system and process was that we had no systems and processes. That was the system and the process, was that we don't have anything. We just figure it out. But as we've kind of moved on, and this is a popular subject around every industry, no matter what you in, but for the sake of this webinar, we're going to talk about the green industry. What do great people want? What do great people want? And it's always, yes, the default answer is everybody just wants to make more money. And there's no doubt in anybody's mind, especially with the cost of living these days, is people do have to make good money. But I will tell you, this generation of workforce, as a person who's been, I've been a business owner and a leader for 15 years, but I've also been in the workforce for 25 years. Things have changed a lot over my course of time. And I also have the privilege and honor of employing people from different generations. And I will tell you that the workforce of today is much different than what the workforce was like 15 years ago. And granted, you can be said yeah, people do need to make more money, but it goes much deeper than money. And that's the thing, is a lot of times if you do have a smaller company, and I know most of the people that are probably on this call would probably identify with what I would refer to as the 80% grouping, where you've got, maybe 10 or less team members. And unfortunately there, you can only offer so much. But the great thing, and what we're going to talk about right here on the screen on your slides right now, are things that are here. Notice in these top 10 things, yes, people do need to make a great wage, but it goes much deeper than that. And unfortunately, if all you build your hiring efforts around is around what you can afford to pay, the second at a certain point, it's never enough. At a certain point, that team member that you gave a little bit more just to convince him to leave the company he was at, to come work for your organization, at a certain point, your lack of opportunity for people to have something, it's gonna change. And so I'm just gonna go right down the list here and take a screenshot of this if you guys are paying attention. We won't be able to really take a deep dive on all 10 of these because we just don't have time. But number one, purpose, a chance to make a difference. People have all these, they have all these strengths that, are there that they've either been, learned throughout their life, or maybe they just have a strong work ethic. And a lot of people, I get this question a lot. People say, well, Sam, we own a lawn care company or a landscape company or a snow removal company. How can somebody really live out their purpose at our business? Well, let me ask you this. If they're an A player, they've got all the work ethic, all the character and they do have experience, for the sake, we'll say that they do. Why should they bring that to your business? What makes you different than the other companies? And I've actually done this assignment before with people that I've coached or mentored. And I said, hey, take an inventory. So if you're taking notes, do this for your market. Go on to Indeed and just study all the help wanted ads of all the companies that are around you and look at what they're offering. Look at what their job ad looks like and then compare it to what you're offering. And if you can't check all of those boxes, if all you can say is, well, I'm going to pay you more money, you're going to get somebody there that's just wants, the extra couple dollars per hour. But the first opportunity they can get a dollar more to go somewhere else, guess what?
They're
They
gone.
gone. They gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
But when you think about purpose, a chance to make a difference, like what does your community efforts look like? And I want to lean in on Denver here and just talk about legacy for a little bit. Like let's talk about what legacy's doing for your community involvement or the mission work or the stuff that you guys have done to help somebody out in need. But I like to say that we are in the people business, our people are in the landscape business. But talk about purpose real quick, Denver. Give us like a 1 minute summary of what besides money, because I know what you pay. I've looked
Yeah.
at your budget. It's more the people. When I've had the privilege and honor of visiting your business before, and the employees that I got the chance to network with and hang with, like, dude, they were so grateful to be there. And I know that's not because of money, and we had a whole SWOT analysis of your business, so we know it wasn't the environment that they were all there for. But what are people getting out of legacy that makes them want to be there?
I think I'll start with the foundation. I think is to build a brand that people can be proud of and want to like these younger guys. They want to wear the brand on their t-shirt. Like
Yep,
be very thoughtful about that. And Sam and Brian do an excellent job at this. But like just build a brand, build something that people are proud to go out to dinner with the hat or with the t-shirt or the hoodie or whatever. We've got when we put in when we put in uniform orders, we also take orders from our guys for multicolored things that aren't, not fluorescent, purple, pink, black, whatever, hoodies and shirts. And we have guys that spend hundreds of dollars a year on extra merch and we sell it to them at cost. But it's just like that's cool to me that they want to buy our stuff.
yeah,
So like build a brand, build a brand. And ma- pour into them, like figure out what they want. Like we've got one guy that we're pouring into him right now. He wants to become a licensed turf applicator, and
yeah,
so we took him to a conference. We're getting him licensed. Mark's mentoring him. Mark has 20 years of experience being a turf applicator. All that, like, and he is so proud of himself. Like it wouldn't matter totally what he gets paid at this point. Like he is so
yeah,
bought in right now. And that depends from person to person. It's a little bit specific, but born to them as far as uh, I want to be known as a company where you come to get better.
yep.
And
That's good.
I think that not obviously you need the pay, you need the retirement. Increasingly because of costs, health insurance is a concern, and that's what's pushed me to become more successful and grow bigger. To Sam's point about like why would you want keep the money for yourself, etc. I want to offer more security for these guys. I want them to have good health benefits. I want them to retire with dignity. I want, what I mean, all this kind of stuff. And the only way I'm going to do this is grow this business and be
Yep,
more
amen.
successful.
And I'll
So,
and I'll I'll add on to that. I know for the sake of time, I want to bust through these, but when I think about being build a brand that people can be proud of, you know where that starts? It starts with you and me. If we're not
mhm.
proud of our brand, how can we expect somebody else to be proud of our brand? And that doesn't mean you got to have some big multi-million dollar company for people to be proud of it. But if you do great work, if you set, we'll go right to number two. If people have a clear understanding of what success looks like, you know how many times in what we'll refer to as a treadmill business, owners go home, or I'll talk to you guys. You guys go home at the end of the day and you ask yourself, or if you were to ask yourself, like, was my day successful or not? And if you don't know what a successful day looks like, how does your team know what a successful day looks like? So number two, just having a clear understanding of what success looks like. Hey, we want to get these lawns mowed. We're trying to achieve a $57, per man hour throughput rate. And, because of that, we want to get these lawns mowed by Friday. Hey, we want to make this week, our goal is to get 5 new lawns, and we celebrate that. And so the question gets asked a lot, like, Sam, how do you build a great culture in your business? It's really not rocket science. It's clearly identify what the expectations or the goals are of the business, and then hold people accountable to make sure that, course correct them when they fail on that, or praise them when they do well, and then just, appreciate them on top of that. But the problem is that we want to resort back to the pay and the shiny, fancy equipment, but we clearly neglect items one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. We got eight. We're trying to get nine, but 10. It just depends on the emotion as us as owners what that's going to
Mhm.
look like. No, these things here. Purpose, just a chance to make a difference. What's your community look like? What's your community involvement look like? How are people coming into your business to be the best versions of themselves? Number two, what does a successful day look like? Three, responsibility, a manager who gives them some source of ownership. I like to say that when you delegate task, you create followers. When you delegate authority, you create leaders. And that's what people want. People do not want to be micromanaged in this next generation of workforce. Freedom, you want to talk about what the path to success looks like. Just create it. How do people move from an apprentice to a lead to maybe a field manager to an ops manager to a general manager? Well, Denver nailed it. It all has to do with growth. If the company's not growing, what does a path to success look like? You might have one, but it's going to be a very, very small, short,
Mhm.
narrow path. The goal to grow your business is so that you can grow others that are there. Attention, people want to know how they're doing in their business. A quarterly performance review that's 5 points of how people are doing. It amazes me how many times that I can't tell you guys how many hundreds of performance reviews I've given, and I'll give them to team members, and they'll be like, it's the first time I've ever gotten a performance review. I'm like, you're 37 years old and you've never had a performance review, because most companies don't do it. Well, you got a pulse, you're good, you showed up today. Opportunity to achieve their goals. Like, hey, how many times have you actually sat down with the team member? Denver does an impeccable job. I'm learning from Denver on this. Like, what do you personally want from your life? And how can I use my business to help you get there? I like to say success can be found when you hit your goals. Significance can be found when others are hitting their goals because of the company. So, what are you doing to build significance in your organization? Transparency. How am I doing? How many times do we lead with emotion? How many times do we lead with emotion? If we're smiling and having a good day, our team just assumes all is well. If we're angry, grouchy, coming in yelling, finger pointing, they're just going to assume that that day sucks. People want to know, what do the scorecards look like? Compensation, higher base wage with opportunity for more. The problem with, if you bring people into your organization at the highest pay rate possible, where do they have opportunity to grow with that? Performance pay is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger in our organization, and I think that that's going to be something we can do a future webinar on, is trying to build that out in organizations. Stability. If imagine you go home, you're a dad or a mom, to children, and you have to go home December 1st, and you have to say, hey, mom's going to be around a little bit more this winter, kids, or dad's going to be around a little bit more because I got laid off. What example does that set to your children? I mean, honestly, like when I sat down and thought about that 3 years ago now, it changed the way I think about our business with how we, facilitated our contracts using LMN software to build out more 12-month contracts and educate our clients on, how do, oh, you say you want the same crews, say every year. Well, we have to be able to provide year-round opportunity for them. And then last but not least is people just want to know that they're cared for. If you get into your office in the morning and you shut your door, and you're don't give people the time of day just to see what they're dealing with, this new generation of workforce, they want to know that you have their back and you're going to go to war for them. So anyway, hopefully that all, I know that was a lot. Brian said it's going to be drinking out of a fire hose here for the second half of this or whatever, but let's talk about let's move on here. Let's talk about offer benefits and retirement savings plan. If this is something that people are not doing in their business, you're already probably eliminating, I would say, 60 to 70% of your applicants, because health insurance is not getting any cheaper, and people want to know that there's something, at the end of that. So, Denver, I know you just recently, released, putting like the health benefits in place for your business. So give our audience a quick little 2-minute summary of what that looked like, and why you did it, and what has that done for the people that call Legacy home.
Yeah, so when I first started Legacy, it was just me and some buddies, and it were just a bunch of young teenagers, and health insurance wasn't a big deal, right? But as you grow and you hire more older people, or not even older people, the guys that came up with you, they start having families, or they might develop a health problem where they need consistent medication, and it could really be debilitating, and they want to work for you, they're a great fit, but they can't afford to work for you because
Hmm.
and we found, in as we've grown, we found that that was a big concern with some of our, I don't want to say older, um more mature employees, and it was a big need. And like Sam says, I I I really try to hone in on, what can I what can I do to make you guys successful. And it was a big game changer. It was definitely a reason some people stayed, and it's definitely going to be a reason some people come. So the legacy. So I think it's a huge deal. Something, but that's where we're at now. I just want to encourage you guys that are smaller. Like, you don't have to start completely wide open like that. It's been a process for us. That I would encourage you to do some sort of 401k retirement plan. That is very inexpensive to you. There's several options out there, and that was huge for my guys. And it made a difference for some of them as well. And I have several guys that if they stick with me, they're going to retire millionaires, and all they did was cut grass, you know, and
Yep.
it's
And
it's it's
I
pretty
will say
impressive.
we waited way too long to implement some of these items there, and all too often the other items carried us. So we brought these things in much later in our business. And but the nice thing is go back to a plug for LMN on the slide we were talking before, is like you can build these items into your budget. And so it's not that you're going to be having to take away from your margin. You would be surprised that just a small little increase in building it into your
Hmm.
budget. Yeah, somebody mentioned, simple IRAs, things like that. There's ways to be able to put these items in here, that it doesn't just have to be, hey, I'm giving $5 more per hour, the dental, the vision,
Hmm.
long-term disability, having the salary, the year-round winter pay. So what does that look like? I know some of you don't do snow in the winter, so I call it create a WSA, where you're putting 10%, of your deposits going to a separate account, and WSA stands for Winter Savings Account, so that you can afford to be putting people on a salary, so that they don't have to get laid off in the winter. The health spend account and retirement savings matching and IRA, the company vehicle. I cannot express how far that goes as something. I know
Hmm.
Brian, done that with Brian's, and the air miles, give people a vacation, just do things that are just a little bit different. Access to equipment. I know there's liability, things like that are involved with that, but there are more things that you can do that you don't realize. So take note. I know we got a lot to get through here, and Brian,
I
get us back on track
Can I
here,
would
say
bud.
say,
something real quick?
go ahead. Yep, yep.
Sorry, I noticed someone in the chat said, our guys don't value long-term investing, things like that. I would challenge you that they might not value that because you haven't explained how important it is. And
Amen.
once a year we bring our financial advisor in as part of our kickoff meeting. We explain, hey, if you just put $30 a weekend, what's this going to look like when you're 59 and a half? Just like showing them that, and it's like eye-opening these guys. I'm like, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and just like explaining, start now. And it's incredible how many people we've convinced to, that otherwise wouldn't be investing for retirement. So that's just
Well,
me.
that
Amen.
that that piggybacks right into the perspective of A players, B players, and C players, right? I mean, you kind of know where those people are at that don't want to invest because maybe they don't think long term, in a way, right? So that
Mhm.
could be revealing. So, guys, we're landing the plane here. We've got about another 8 or 9 slides. We got about 6 minutes left, and then I want to give some good time for the Q&A. A lot of great questions coming in. If you guys even want to start kind of preloading the Q&A chat, really, really good questions that I see coming in. I see them all. We got you. We will 100% get through those. Sam, we've got a good 6 or so minutes. If you want to power through the next couple of slides, I think we'll be able to land the plane here before you know it. So go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll go right there. The first day on the job. So when we talk about what this is kind of the norm in our industry. So again, I'm a firm believer on leave this episode of the first day webinar with what is my next right thing. Don't think go big or go home. You heard what Brian said earlier about, there's a lot of information coming at you, but let's just go right to the slide right here. Number one, no one knows why you're here. Two, go talk to that guy. No onboarding training. Just go get to work. Just go jump in a truck with some strangers and go somewhere. Nobody talks to you. The foreman is having a bad day. You open the truck door and 7 Red Bull cans fall out and it smells like a prison cell,
Or
like if you
worse,
could,
or
if you,
worse.
or worse than that. So if you could just identify these few things right here, just figure out, why are you hiring people? What are they there to do? Because people just want to be part of something bigger than just coming in and having a quote unquote job. I love this slide right here. What came first, the chicken or the egg? You heard me mention earlier about this industry just has high turnover, and then we don't invest into the people that are coming on. There's no career path or where people where things are at, and then people quit, they leave, or we end up having to promote them to another company. And then we wonder why, like we leave at each and every single day and we feel so frustrated that we really, it's the treadmill cycle of business. So documented hiring process right here. Take a picture of the slide, you guys, so we don't have to go through every bit of this here, but just make sure use some form of AI platform, chat, whatever, and create a job post. Make sure you're using some form of screening applicants. Send out a pre-interview. If anybody wants copies of our pre-interview questions, I'm happy to share that. Shoot me an email, send me a message on social, whatever, and I will get you a copy of that. Review them, figure out, the best time that it is for interviews. We like to do our interviews earlier in the day because if people can't show up for an 8 or 9 a.m. interview, how are they ever going to show up for work? Actually conduct an interview. How many of you have just talked to somebody on the phone and said, start tomorrow, and then the person shows up and I don't want to get too graphic here, but they're missing an arm and they're supposed to go run a whip today, and maybe they can prove that to you, but you got to do a face-to-face interview to really get a feeling for what people are gonna be able to do for your business. Check references. Every single time we end up dealing with the bad hire, we go, did anybody bother to check Denver's references before we hired them? Create an offer of employment. We make our hiring process cumbersome by design, because if people can make it through that, chances are they're going to be a pretty good employee. Create some form of an employee contract. I don't care if it's one page that just says, hey, this is what I'm getting hired to do. I agree to XYZ. We make our employees take our handbook and have to read through it and sign that they identify it. And then just some form of new hire orientation, and all that, guess what? Right there goes into an employee file at the end of it. Quick little side note for that new hire orientation. That does not have to be done by you as an owner. That is a great process for a foreman that you wonder, like, what kind of leadership responsibilities can I give to John, my lead foreman? That right there. Somebody else can handle that first day. Maybe you are the owner, so you're also the hiring manager, but you can hand that off to somebody to be able to own that for you. Sell the career. Remember I mentioned to you guys that it took us a long time before we got the health benefits and the life insurance and the things like that going. I could sell this dream that, hey, we're going to have all these things one day, but you got to put your money where your mouth is. If you tell people that you're going to grow your business, but then they don't actually see the growth happening, mm, mm, at some point they're not going to believe you anymore. So when you're
Yeah.
bringing people in, make sure you're explaining what does that structure look like when they get hired. And I know it's difficult for some of you because you have to hire people in as crew leaders, at least you think you do, but I'm telling you, even people that come in with experience, they could be your worst hires because they might have 5 years of bad habits that you're going to have to untrain. So just make sure people understand, what does that big picture look like when you're hiring. Show them the opportunities. How do they get a raise? Like, if people have to come to you and say, "Hey, Brian, what do I have to do to get a raise here?" You've already lost them. You have all that opportunity in the front end, and the handbook can show all that right in advance. So, and right now with technology, you've got that right on the tip of your fingers there. Onboarding failure, right here. The weak onboarding. We talked earlier about how you lose people right out of the gate. So if you don't have a good process for the pre-interview, the interview, the way that stuff gets filed away, what does the first day look like? What does the training program look like? You can expect, and this is probably, you heard me earlier where I said you finally worked your way out of this season, you're right in this season, or maybe you're getting ready to hire your first team member and you're about to go into the season. Let this episode be hopefully save you from the repeated headaches and all that good stuff. Onboarding is not just train. Onboarding is not just orientation or training. Onboarding is a consistent system that introduces the employee to what the culture of your business looks like. You, as owners that are on this webinar, you have two jobs in your business. What are they? Pause for a sec, because are you guys all probably going to throw stuff in the chat? You have two jobs. One, set the vision for the company. Where do I want this? What do I want this business to look like in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever? You are responsible for that vision. And you know what the second one is? It's to set the tone for the culture. And that starts right through that very, very first interview with how your business looks organized. This is just something that you'll see in what I refer to as the 5% grouping of businesses. One, they have that person that can help with that onboard process. They have a champion. Does not have to be you as the owner. They map out, what does that program look like from start to finish. That starts right with the new hires on not even day one. They have role specific training, which guess who the perfect people are to do that training? Your crew leaders. It doesn't have to be you. And they hold people accountable to results. People don't want to guess whether or not, based off of emotion, what does a good first day looks like. You have to show them what that looks like. And when you have that good onboarding process, see it right here in the slides, that's going to give you what is the quality of our business looks like. If people come in and that first day is already rushed right out of the gate, you can expect that people are already just going to assume that they can get away with whatever they want, because the process right out of the gate began poorly. So building a program together, this is just a good example of what that can look like here on your screen right now. Day one, hey, welcome regulatory group. I would like to say on people's first day, it's not a bad thing to have them never even get introduced to what the work looks like. Let them spend the day. If you're the owner operator and you're the owner and you're also the trainer, you're the ops manager, nothing wrong with that. But let them just kind of spend the day with you and show them around some job sites, show them what your workload looks like. Or if they are your first employee, the problem is you're going to have to put them through some form of one-on-one training, or maybe your first hire does need to be somebody who's got some experience that can kind of help play off of what your vision looks like. But day one, the driver training, role specific, what is that person being hired to do? The day two field checklist, like, hey, what does the skill that you said you have actually look like? That's where the proficiency example that we talked about looks like. And we put this all up here, but if you guys are not familiar with Greenius, it spells all this out for you. It's another shameless plug to Greenius there. But day 30, that's just an employee check-in. Hey, you know what? We started with this, and this. I've released you out into the world. Hey, we're just checking in. How are things going? What can I do to help you with it? And I can assure you that people just want that. They want that training. They want to know that you care. And obviously at day 60 and 90s, you should be doing a performance review. That's when maybe another compensation pay changes, things like that. So the onboarding system here, obviously plug for Greenius, of course. Just having a centralized spot where all of those modules are located at here. And we won't go too far into Greenius here, but obviously you can reach out to Element and they'll give you kind of a path on that. And then I love this right here. Let's get a poll here just to kind of see where people are at. Brian, why don't you kind of take things over here for a second?
Yep, I'll let you get a sip of the coffee. We're getting to that 3 o'clock slot. Everybody, shake it out. Let's keep going. We're almost there. Power through. I always tell other folks, I'm like, hey, you can work for 8 or 10 hours for your boss. I know you can work 10 or 12 hours for yourself. So everybody, wake up.
Amen.
Just having some fun. But onboarding systems. How currently are you guys managing your onboarding and training for your crews? I love what Sam said. You're either intentional or you default. Another way to look at it, right? There's only one way to be intentional going uphill, or to coast is the only way to coast is to coast downhill. And so if you're not being intentional to climb and grow, then you're probably coasting and you're going downhill. So I got the poll here for another couple quick seconds. I don't even want to ask where some of us were 6 months, 12 months, 18 months ago.
Amen to
But
that.
yeah, yeah.
Amen.
So oh yeah, and folks, that's exactly where I was, Sam
Mhm.
was, Denver. I mean, we're all there in some ways, even still, right? So let's just continue to work on it and build that system in the process. Again, Greenius is a great platform to do it, and of course, document everything. By the way, quick last note as we're going through here, and we're gonna wrap this thing up and get to the Q&A. What an incredible opportunity! Seriously, if you guys are thinking about this, there's two ways to look at this whole conversation, last hour and 20 minutes. Glass half full, or glass half empty, right? Man, I have nothing figured out. Okay. Glass half full, man, I've got the next 90 days to go through the spring rush training. And as you go through all this, write down as much as you can. Just scribble it on a Google sheet, scribble it on a notebook. What do I like? What did I not like about that guy? What worked here? What didn't work here? And just keep looking for the way that you want to frame this. And maybe you can put more time and effort to this in June or July. I get that, right? It's kind of like you gotta catch the wave before it's here. So maybe we're going in the spring rush. Like, I don't have time to build all of this. I can use Greenius. That'll help me a little bit. But by June, July, August, maybe you want to revisit all this conversation and these slide decks and these videos that you can maybe watch the replays later. Okay. And so, again, this is such a great conversation. I love the poll there, by the way. That was pretty much me the same time last year. All right. One quick thing here for Sam, the countless problems training labs, too many supervisors. Oh, yeah. I love what you said there, Sam. It's basically, it just comes down to clarity, consistency, and accountability. If you guys can remember anything, clarity, consistency,
Our
and accountability.
people are hungry for us to pivot for them as the leaders in our organizations and be leading them different. Our people deserve to be led well. They are, and I love this right here. Teams are waiting for the perfect time to get started, and it will never start. They say the best time to have planted a tree was 30 years ago. The next
Mm.
best time is tomorrow. So, man, if there's one thing that you guys take away from this, it's just, taking the time to recognize, like, right out of the gate. Like, you'll notice kind of the trend here with this 4-day series is like, let today be about what happens through the first 3 days of employment. So, like, it's easy. You guys probably, wanted to focus on the health benefits, things like that. That's great. But let today just be about the what are we doing to I got to offer it. But then what do our recruiting efforts look like? And what does our onboarding efforts look like? And just focus on that. Jot down 3 to 5 things that you want to do to make that part of the process better. And then as this week goes on, we'll dive in and get deeper with that. So that means
As
you
they,
got to
as
come for the next 4 days, 3 days.
That's right. They say step one in therapy, right? You have to admit you have a problem, right?
There
You
you
have to admit
go.
something's broken. So just catch the macro this week, and we've got all the notes, and you can watch the replays. Denver, going to you, brother. We've talked a lot today about people. We've talked a lot about training, hiring, processes, systems. Any great breakthroughs that you want to highlight that you guys have made a pivot on with Legacy over the last 12 months? Any one thing? I'm a big the one thing book kind of guy. Any one thing that's really helped you have the biggest bang for the buck this last year on your hiring process?
Yeah, on my hiring process specifically is just, and this is a shameless plug for LMN, is knowing our numbers and knowing and being able to show our guys our numbers. Show our guys. I mean, this is a perfect example. It's kind of funny that you show that picture there. I remember that job where those guys are laying those pavers, and like I didn't know my numbers. It looks cool, and but like those guys didn't know what winning or losing looked like. They didn't know how many tons of limestone I bid that for. They didn't know how many skids of Beacon Hill XL smooth I ordered, and all that kind of stuff. Like, know your numbers, build that budget out at LMN. Um, we're really transparent with our guys about what things are bid for. whether it's more on the service end for hours or more on the project end for materials and all that kind of stuff. And that's been a huge breakthrough to be able to show the guys that, and then work on ways to fix inefficiency problems together, not just, me having brainstorms, but hey guys, what do you think about this? How can we do this? And they'll come, hey, what if we set the truck up this way and we loaded it this way or whatever? Make it our problem. So
I love that. I love that, guys. We're gonna get into Q&A here. Don't leave just yet. We got a power pack next 15 minutes. Here's what I'll tell you. First things first. Lydia dropped it in the comments. If you guys didn't see, I was gonna drop this up front because I wanted to weed out maybe some of the softies, But if you stay for all 4 days this week, we can track this on the back end. We got the wizards behind the scenes. You get entered into a chance to win a $500 gift card towards your spring lunch and kickoff. So just a quick note. We're going to go through a couple more days here this week. We got about another 10 minutes here. Proud
In
of you
case you're
guys
one
for
of those
making.
people that need, as if you shouldn't want to be here anyway, because you want to grow and better your culture. In case
No,
you needed a $500 extrinsic motivator, the fine folks at Element are willing to put that out there for you guys. So
that's right. That's right. That goes a long way at Chick-fil-A. I mean, that's like a,
it
a
does
thousand
go a
piece nugget
long
meal.
way at
Okay.
Chick-fil-A. It
uh,
does.
and is that U.S. or Canada? We'll just say U.S. to put Element on the spot.
There you go.
If you know the exchange rate, I just saved somebody in Canada $200. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get an email later from HR. All right, let's do this really quick. We got Q&A coming here, guys. Here's the thing. We're very, very, and I mean this sincerely. It's not lip service. Element has been one of the most biggest pivots for my business to help us reach the success that we've had. We came off the best 2025 ever. And I know Sam is in the exact same boat. Denver's in the exact same boat. So if you want to schedule a demo with LMN, you still got plenty of time. I know we're just about to kick off the spring rush. I actually got onboarded this same time in spring 2 years ago. You absolutely can make the commitment to learn it and to get onboarded with LMN. Please don't ever say one day I'll do this. One day there'll be time. There is never time for anything. One day I'll get to play with my kids. One day I'll kiss my wife. Dude, you never know when and what. Just start today. One day I'll start working out. Today is one day. There's no one day on the calendar. It's Sunday to Monday. All right. Let's go back to the fuel tank question or the fuel tank conversation. If you do want to schedule a demo with LMN or with Greenius, so a lot of folks that wanted to check out and bluntly sign up with Greenius, you should. They are going to top off your tank if you do a demo and check out what they have going on. And again, Sam, they didn't say what fuel tank. I'm thinking that 500, gallon tank you have in the backyard, Sam. Sounds about right to me. Just
Perfect.
kidding.
It's perfect.
Just kidding. Just kidding. All right.
I'm doing another demo. Like Sam, you've done 71 demos.
That's right. That's right. They didn't say what tank. So there'll be asterisks on the next slide tomorrow. All right, let's do this really quick, guys. We love hanging with you. I'm seriously like this is I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. I'm a nerd. I want to get better in business. I want to grow my skills. I want to grow my systems and processes. This is day one of 4. Okay, so some people treat a crumb like a feast. Some people treat a feast like a crumb. And I'll just tell you guys sincerely, I'm very, very grateful that these crumbs that these leaders are giving us today. Let's take it home. Let's implement it and make them proud 6 months, 12 months, later when we see them at the next event or conference. All right. So let's do this really quick. Day 2. And then we're going to get into your guys' Q&A here. So if you haven't thrown a question in the Q&A chat bot or chat thread, throw it there, not just the regular chat. Day 2, tomorrow, Sam's going to be back with us all week as long as our voices stay together. Tomorrow's building leaders, not bottlenecks. We got foremen as leaders, training ownership. We talked and hinted at some of this today. And then consistency amongst crews. I'll tell you what, as I grow and scale, there's nothing more important than clarity, consistency, and accountability. And we're going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow. All right, let's do this really quick. Sam, Denver, you guys got about another 10 minutes or so. Are you guys good here? We might go a couple minutes long. All right, let's do some good questions and answers. First things first top 3 questions. Great questions, but we just don't have the time for them today. They're very heavy. How do you compete with new companies that come out every year with super low prices? That's a whole nother kind of off topic / discussion. So don't want to make a huge pivot on that one, but I know we'll be talking about that in future webinars. Another one is how to build a hardscaping company and division and even higher. I'd have to point you to some industry leaders like Frank Bork, Pat and Ken with local roots and forward coaching. Find your biggest fish that you can in hardscaping. They'll teach you how to do that. We did talk about the training and hiring part today. to build a hardscaping business. But for the X's and O's and hardscaping, I'd pivot to some guys that maybe have a little bit more specific businesses and industry knowledge there.
And I will mirror that and say it really is a whole different business model. If you're used to maintenance and softscapes and snow, hardscapes it can be the most incredibly lucrative thing you build, but it can also be the most bankrupting thing you can do if you do it wrong. So definitely recommend getting yourself a good coach, getting yourself a good mentor with somebody that's kind of been there, done that, and grown it. So
Love it, love it. Yeah. So
Amen.
Omar, great question. Bruce, great question. Just want to try to keep us a little bit on topic today. With Will, great question about lean as well. I think everybody should be operating some lean principles. A lot of great folks out there for lean. All right, so let's get into some questions that are pertinent and related to today's discussion. Connor, for landscape construction, Sam, I'm going to kick this off to you, and then Denver, we can kind of do bullet round here because I know we're a little bit tight on time. But do you train employees on the job site in a real world scenario, or do you train them in a controlled environment? And even though are those hours unbillable, and why?
that's a great question. That's a phenomenal question. So we'll start with the easiest one because I think this is the most broad level of training, which would be, let's just go with lawn maintenance. So you're bringing somebody on that's going to be cutting grass. If you don't have the perfect yard to mow at your facility, or maybe it's your personal house where you're training, I think it's good to get people out into the real world. And this is an issue that a lot of times for us that have foremen, we want to put that responsibility on our foreman, and we should, but we also want to hold them responsible for hitting production metrics as well. So it's a problem when you're like, hey, we'll call this foreman John. I need you to hit, $55 a man hour, but I also need you to be the one training the new hires as they come in. It's a lot. So if you do have a training person in your business, I would recommend you have a training crew. For us personally, what we've got a couple of customers that are very much aware that we use their properties as our training properties, and it's something where it's a kind of a back 40 of the property, something where they know, hey, we're going to teach a crew how to stripe, how to do this there. And it's a different one depending on the day that they onboard. Because if you've only got one property and you just cut it yesterday, you can't just keep cutting something. So we try to differentiate it by residential, by commercial, by condo, and just let people know that hey, we're going to be training out here. And Denver mentioned it earlier about the training vest thing that lets people know it's a new hire. We also communicate that to our customers to say, if you see somebody in the vest, there's a pretty good chance they're a new person and they're working with somebody to be trained. But training has to be paid. It's actually I think it might be illegal to put somebody out in the workforce and not be paying them to be trained. As far as billable goes, I don't think any customer wants you to charge them to train somebody on their property. So, that's something I think you just got to build into your overhead budget in LMN. Hey, we're gonna add training as one crew. This is what they're responsible for. I don't think any company should only have one crew. So if I've had the privilege and honor of coaching you, I know a lot of my coaching clients are on this call. They will tell you Sam's always advocating, man, I'm just thankful to have my first crew. Like, why are you pushing me to have my second crew? This is why, because somebody's got to be that extra crew. If you've got two crews full worth of work, you actually need a third crew, because the third crew becomes the training crew. Somebody needs to be producing the people, and it really can't be you as the owner, because you've got to work on the business. And that training role is perfect for a lead foreman, a lead tech, whatever that looks like. So, no, you're not billing your customers for it unless it's just a per service thing or it's part of their contract, and because nobody's going to want to pay for that. So,
Love it, love it. Denver, let me have ask you if you want to piggyback on that question with also the next question from Judy, because I think they're really relatable. The idea of overhiring in the spring. Do you overhire in the spring? Inevitably, somebody might leave, April or August, or take vacations. How do we know what's the best way to place extras on the crew? We don't want to be overfilled and inefficient with the crew, and that even relates right back to training. So, Denver, your thoughts on that, brother?
Yeah, we don't. In the past, we've been had more of that mentality, but we've begun to hire slow and fire fast. And so we're very systematic in our hiring process now. And if we bring someone on board, I want to invest in them. I don't want them to just be a number. And I may or may not need them. So no, I understand the thought process behind that, but I think that comes back to the fact that you're probably not focusing on your onboarding process if you're just blanket mass hiring. So.
I, lo I love
I
that.
will add that with a boom.
Yes, fantastic. A couple other great questions came in here. Denver, everybody's asking for your email. God bless you if you want to drop that. So I think people want to know your path to success and your roadmap, if you will. A little bit of that question came in earlier when you're talking about that, I remember. Sam in Denver, maybe just a little free for all on this one. Somebody said, I want to expand into other avenues while still maintaining no confusion, like hardscaping or pools. What's the best way to have a predictable outcome? I think is the question here. When you're trying to expand into different areas. Sam, I remember you referencing like know what good looks like. What the
Yeah.
heck does that even mean?
Man, that is such an open-ended question to create a predictable outcome. But unfortunately, you can't create a predictable outcome if you yourself don't know what the predictable outcome looks like. So that starts with us. And like I'll go back, I'll tell just kind of a quick story here. When my first team member from the field was promoted into a managerial role. And with that managerial role, he kind of started doing sales and things like that. And the reason he got promoted, you can imagine why. He was my best foreman. And so he got kind of moved up in the ranks because of how good he was in the field. Then he started selling. And I remember like we would have conversations where he would be bidding jobs, and his crew member was a guy by the name of Keegan, who's now our fleet manager. For those that know and love Keegan at the Atlas team, but anyway, Tom would always bid jobs, and he would say, well, it would take me and Keegan this. It would take me and Keegan this. And he always built it around where he was with his production times. But unfortunately, like not everybody is the same way. And so if you don't have a software like LMN, not just utilizing LMN, but I'm a firm believer, you need to use LMN in its entirety for 1 year before you actually know what those production rates look like, before you can show what a predictable outcome looks like. So that's what happens is we try it and we're disappointed with the results. So we want to be ostriches and put our head in the sand and go, you know what, I'm just going to shut that part of the software off. But really, it's being consistent with actually getting the metrics for a good year before you can actually implement that. So what does success look like, or a predictable outcome? First year should be pretty low. Like it's the quality of the work. It's some form of, hey, we've got to have this job done by this point in time. But then like what I like to say is that great software can make a good process great. But the thing is if you don't have something where you've been building that stuff out over the years, like I call it garbage in, garbage out. So if you put crappy data into the software, you're going to get crappy data back out. And so imagine what, even one of my best friends sold this company, for an 8 multiple to one of the largest companies in the world, and they didn't have a CRM. Like, I'm like, imagine what a CRM would have done for his business, but he had a very cumbersome, simple process that worked with Excel and QuickBooks. And
Mm.
so, having the predictable outcomes is going to look different year one than year two and year three. And so there's like so much to unpack with that. Again, that's a whole webinar of creating predictable outcomes for your
I
crews. So
I I think you just had a great podcast, 4 days ago that dropped on that exact topic. So
yeah,
I was giving you the layup to dunk, but you of course got the
I
sermon.
should have took the stairs. I should
You
have took
got
the
you got I
stairs.
got I got the sermon answer. That we'll take it too. All right. I love it, brother. I know you're so good. Like this is funny. Couple more questions, folks. Give me one more minute. We'll land the plane. I really respect you guys' time. I know we're a little over, but great questions coming in. I think a lot of folks have these same questions. Denver and Sam, bullet round. Hopefully one or two word answers. Best place that you're looking to hire or find great talent, and maybe even like A players. Not just rank and file, but like some A players. Denver, would you mind going first? Best place to find new
Yeah.
hires?
Best, I mean, obviously we have our traditional Indeed route and things like that. And we're always scanning, but like for some A players, I would encourage you to join local groups that you can get person to person referrals. I'm in my local BNI chapter. I'm in our local chamber. I try to do different, and like I found like I have a videographer now, and I found him through my BNI chapter. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like several of my guys I've found through that kind of stuff. I highly recommend. They're already kind of pre-vetted. These are people that kind of know your business. They know what you're looking for, and they're not going to send you, chaff. So
There
that
you
would be
go.
my.
I love it. Love it.
I think the best A players come to you, build the organization, build the brand, and I think our best people have come in the door because they heard about us and they've applied. Make it easy for people to apply. Like you don't have to make the onboard process easy, but make it easy for people to find you. So they say that
Yes.
building that brand on social media, it's not you're not doing that to necessarily market for customers. Yes, that's usually what our point is, but good people see that brand and see the work that you put out in the equipment you use, and they're sizing you up and they will find you. If people want to be part of what you're doing, and when we were going through some of our dark years of growth, those people to people referrals and hey, John, do you know somebody good that can come join our team? That worked until it didn't. And at a certain
Mhm.
point in time, eventually you run through that. Hopefully you've sifted out the
Mhm.
best of the best. But I think building that brand of excellence and the best people will find you. But when all other else things fail, you should probably have an ad on Indeed. I think we found our best people on Indeed,
100%.
and then a good process to sift them out. Indeed and ZipRecruiter. So
I love it. My only thought I'll add on that, by the way, I learned this from Marty Grunder Grow and the company that they were interviewing and hosted. Most of their long-term hires and folks that have stuck with that company the most, Complete Land Sculptures, was direct referrals from other employees. So they had crazy stats, like 70% of their people that were there 5 years or longer came from direct referrals. So,
yeah.
we're always like, man, like we got to find somebody to go to Facebook and Indeed. Well, why don't we let our internal team know? Because, man, we'll talk about a recruiting machine that you got there. If you got 50 to 100 team members, that can bring in some great talent.
We
Let's,
announce it. That's a good point. We announce it at our weekly meetings what positions we have open. So that's always something that
huge.
we're always hiring. So absolutely.
Love it. All right. Well, folks, one last thing. There's a couple questions. I don't want to skate over this, but this will be the last one, and I'm just going to answer it just so we have a little bit of a land the plane on this one. 1099s and W-2s, they're distinctively different. 1099s are contractors, their own insurance, call their own shots, get to do the work per scope, but on their time and dime. Uh, W-2, you're hiring them, you tell them where to go, what to do, and you provide a uniform, et cetera, et cetera. They're drastically different,
Yeah.
and I will just tell you, not to put any fear in anybody, but potential red flags from an audit or a compliance issue and conversation. If you are 1099ing people or cash paying people, unfortunately, some of those band-aids we might have to rip off this spring. Consult some more professional advice when it comes to those topics. But please, broadly speaking, and this isn't legal advice, right? But let's not be 1099ing anybody this year unless they're actually a contractor. There's actually a lot going on in the industry for some compliance conversation regarding that the last year or two for trades businesses. All right. So
Yep.
just wanted to make sure I answered that one for you guys. Great questions, great topic, great conversation. Holy freaking cow. Honored to be able to pour into you guys for gosh an hour and 40 minutes on a Tuesday. You guys are warriors and butt kickers to be making this investment into your guys' self and your business. Your team is going to reap the rewards and benefits and dividends long term in your guys' families. So thank you. I'm very proud of you guys for spending time to be on us with this webinar today. Again, if you guys want to schedule a demo with Element or Greenius, I saw a lot of conversation about that. I'm very proud of you guys for answering that call as well and getting that done once and for all. Like Sam said, we're actually in our third year of LMN. And my gosh, we could go for another hour and 40 minutes about what that platform has done for us, including Greenius, which we're doing big time this spring ourselves. All things being said, don't forget to come back same time, same place tomorrow. We're going to have day 2, which we're really excited about. And if you guys can do me a big solid in the comments, say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, holy cow, to Denver, Sam, and the whole LMN team. We couldn't do it without them. All right, guys, that's what we got for you on day 1. We love you. We appreciate you. Thanks so much for joining with us today on your Tuesday afternoon, and we look forward to catching up with all you guys here on the next one.